Welcome to A Walk in My Stilettos, where our goal is to help you walk in your greatness. I'm your host, Makini Smith. And on today's show, we have a special treat. We have somebody that I call my sister from another mister. We are online social media besties. uh, I feel like we've met in another life. um, Kim Mason, she is a social influencer, but she is also a mom, a wife, an amazing human being, and a lover of God. And that is why I love her. So, Kim, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Makini. I really appreciate it. And trust me, the feelings are equal.
Awesome, awesome. So, for those that don't know, can you break down what a social influencer is?
A social influencer is basically someone who uses their network or platform to influence the masses via their ideas, their trends, um, and just their ideology.
I love
And
that.
being a social influencer um, is something that many people don't realize they already are, even if it's on a lower scale.
Mm-hmm. Okay, okay. So, one of the things that I will be asking all of my guests is, because our name, the title that our parents gave us at birth came with a meaning. So, do you know what your name means?
It means absolutely nothing. My full name is Kimberly, and when I look it up, it's just like Old English. So I'm biracial. My mom's family, literally, her grandmother was from England, and her grandfather is from Germany. And yeah, it means absolutely nothing.
Well, although online it means absolutely nothing, to many it means absolutely everything. Because if I mention Kim to people, they're like, Kim? Kim who? Kim Mason? Yes, Kim online, okay? So, okay, I want to talk about the name change because when I started following you, it was Kim Scott,
Yes,
and now it's Kim Mason.
that is correct.
Okay, so can you share a little bit about the name change?
Yeah, absolutely. So my actual maiden last name is Turner. Um, I have been married twice. I'm still currently married.
Mm-hmm.
And my first married last name was Scott. And I recently got married about 6 months ago. Um,
Congratulations.
Thank you. Hence the last name change to Mason, which I big time battled about, because even though I'm not a celebrity, I feel like so many people know me in my own right. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
do I just keep it the same? Like I've branded myself on this. And when you kind of put yourself out there to the world, really, I looked at my impressions, and in a week, I had like over 200,000 people viewing my profile.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's scary,
Yeah.
and you overthink a lot, right? We want to all
Mm-hmm.
pretend like we don't care what anyone says, but to some level or layer of degree we do. Even if we free ourselves from it, we do. And I battle, like, do I just like take a stand and I'm like, boom, bam, I'm married, or do I just keep it like, like Tina Turner type deal?
Well,
So
I.
I decided to change it to
Mhm.
Mason, and I just said, YOLO, and I just went with it.
Yeah, yeah. I, for one, love it. I am a lover of all things love. And, you know, I, I have been married previously myself, so I totally understand. When I was married, I wasn't into social media back then. So,
Yes.
my life wasn't out there, and it was after my divorce where I actually got online and started building a presence. And the first relationship that I shared online, I was, very hesitant about it, but I wanted to help inspire other women who didn't feel that there was a second chance or that, it was still possible. and I shared
Mhm.
it. And when it didn't work out, I uh, felt some kind of, I'm going to say, shame. Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, I had to I had to remind myself that the reason why it didn't work out. I'm trying to be polite here, but he cheated. So the reason why it didn't work out is it's not my fault. So why do I feel ashamed? So in my relationship now, I'm very open about it. And I have women message all the time saying, how did you overcome, that feeling where, you had past relationships that didn't work out, and how did you make that decision to share it um, online again? So I guess my question
And,
to you
and
is, how did you get to that place?
you know, so I'm always sort of conflicted. Do I share or do I just keep it to myself? Because
Mm.
there is freedom in sharing, but there's also strength in privacy,
Yes.
right? It just depends on what perspective you look at. And I think for different times in your life will require a different response. Let's take Beyonce, one of my homegirls in my head, for example. For a long time, she kept her life private and infidelities, as we now know, private.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
there came a time in her life where she could no longer be quiet about it. And she voiced her opinion. And even though she didn't come out, she waited for her husband to come out and confirm that this
Hmm.
was just no longer music, right? That this was
Hmm.
really my wife. This was really my wife, you know, telling a story about our marriage, in form of poetry.
Hmm.
She responded when she felt that it was good for her to respond. And so, for me personally, at that moment, yeah, and I know a lot of women who are going to be listening to this are going to be able to relate with the fact, especially if they're moms, that when something tragic happens, let's say a divorce or someone cheats on you or whatever it may be,
Hmm.
that caused something devastating or traumatic to happen to your life, you still have to be a mother.
Hmm. That's right.
You still have to wake up. You still have to go to work. You really don't have a moment to grieve. You almost have to keep marching forward, wounded like a soldier.
Yep.
And it's painful, but it's the hat that we wear as mothers. We have to strengthen ourselves. And one of the decisions that I made was to just be open. Right? I had been
Mm-hmm.
with the same person for years and years and years and years. He was on everything, and when that changed, what I decided to do was to not talk about him, because that was a really big deal for me. In healing, was that I was not going to be like one of those angry women who just aired
Right.
everything,
Right. Yep.
but that I was going to be the woman who just says, hey, this happens and I'm going to survive. And you guys are going to watch me survive through this. And not only am I going to survive, but I'm going to thrive.
That's
And
right.
that my latter days, will be my best days. And so I chose to become very public about that. I chose to become public with revamping my life.
Mm-hmm.
I chose to be public and not put the focus on what ended my marriage or even that the marriage ended, but that I was in a new chapter, and
That's
that
right.
although it was feeling like I was starting from the bottom emotionally, like everything. When you
Mm-hmm.
marry someone and it ends, and you invest, I invested my whole adult life in the same person. You have
Mm-hmm.
to relearn who you are,
Yes.
um, because I didn't know who I was aside of him. I had never been an adult without him,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
I had to realize, who am I? What do I like? If he's not a part of that equation anymore, what are all of these things? And then I decided that there was freedom in that as well. And my gift is sharing. My gift
Yeah.
is sharing. I don't mind sharing with people anything if I think it's going to help them. And I said, as I go through this process of fixing myself, I can't have a friendship with everyone, but
Mm-hmm.
I can throw a stone in the water and it can make a ripple effect that can heal other women if I just let them see me fix myself. And that's
Yes.
what I did.
I think that is part of the reason why I resonated with you so well online. Um, your authenticity, your transparency, the boldness in how you share your story, and being able to persevere and push through completely resonates with who I am and what actually started my journey of, being open. Like the whole A Walk in My Stilettos, even that started from me just sharing my story, a walk in my shoes. And
Mhm.
in my first book, A Walk in My Stilettos, How to Get Through the Struggle with Grace, I talk about things the same way how you just explain it, where I don't focus on what he did or what happened, but it's that I got through it and that I'm still able to not just survive, but to thrive. And especially as being a mother, because there are, there have been many days where I'm in
Mhm.
my feelings and I don't want to do something. But I have
Yes.
dependents. I have dependents that need to eat. I
Mhm.
have dependents that need to be dropped to school. I have dependents that need me to show up for, volunteer at school.
Mhm.
So we don't have we don't have that luxury. We have to
Mhm.
make that decision to be better examples for our children and to move forward. So, I mean, on the note of being an example, you sharing your relationship with your husband now, which I think is absolutely beautiful. I think you are both beautiful people inside and out. Um,
Thank you.
can you share, how you guys met and how that changed things for you?
Well, funny story. So I actually officially met my husband in person at our place of prayer at the masjid, but before then, he just did a typical millennial slid into my DMs. So he was such a gentleman.
Yeah, yeah.
And let me just tell you something, guys. I get a lot of DMs. Like my DMs are constantly popping, and it's not like men all day long,
Mm-hmm.
but men do slide in the DMs, ladies. And if I can be honest with you, I ignore. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just something that he said. I'm Muslim, so and some people believe in what I'm about to say, whether they're Muslim or not, but we call it the Qadr of Allah. And what that basically means is that it was destined to happen. No matter what you would have done, it would have
Mm-hmm.
happened
Mm-hmm.
because it was already pre-written for your life. We believe in predestination. And so whether he slid in my DMs or not, whatever was going to happen, I was meant to be his wife.
Right.
And so, but yes, originally he slid in my DMs, and he was such a gentleman. And he basically said, and I had posted a post up, and it was 2 prayer rugs on like a cliff, and it was so neat because I'm just such a free spirit. I'm just like real laid back. I'm like the girl who you come over and like I make everybody feel like my good girlfriend. And so the post was like 2 prayer rugs, 2 fast food cups with a box of pizza to share, and we're overlooking a cliff. Like that's me.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I can't wait until the day where I'm praying with my husband and he's leading me in prayer,
That's
And
beautiful.
he saw that and he took the post and put it into my direct messages. And he said, hey, I don't want to come off at you wrong, but flat out, I'm looking to be a husband. I'm looking for a wife. And I would love, I would raise my hand, is what he said. I would
I
raise my
love it.
hand.
I love it.
And what I want to send to my everyone who's listening is that I honestly feel like that only happened because I was available.
Mm-hmm.
And this is about to be a really important message that I tell you is a lot of times women pass up or can't even get the opportunity to have something that they're praying for because they're blocking everything that God wants to sing
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
because of distractions,
Yes.
because of some fling, some situationship you're holding on to. And so your visibility is just skewed because you can't even see anything clear because you're so distracted by what you're holding on to, something that's not even real.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like that was able to happen because I had put myself in a space where I said, me, Kim, I'm a wife. I'm wife
Yes.
material.
That's
And
right.
let me just say this. Not every woman aspires to be a wife, and that's okay. But my message is to know who you are and to not budge.
Yes.
And so I knew what I wanted out of life, and I knew that I wasn't going to keep going on these pointless dates and these, sticky situations that weren't serving me, that were slowly chipping away at me. I had totally cut all of those things off. And I said, nobody else is going to, come around and use me like a leash,
Mm-hmm.
drive me around until the 3 years and the miles have hit their point. No. And then
Mm-hmm.
trade me in for the next best thing. Nobody is going to do that to me ever again. And I shut all of that off, and I'm not lying to you. It's like I could have just blinked my eyes. Like, I dream of Jeannie. It was like, boing. God was like, God, what was you waiting on? I've been trying. Like, he's like, let me hurry up and give her this blessing before she gets off track again. And so I just took that as a sign, and so I said, because typically I ignore people, right? So I said, we do what women do. So I started to look through his Instagram, right, to see, like, who is this, And
Yes.
I was thinking, I don't know. But my mentor said, well, just invite him to the masjid, and I'll be a medium between the two of you guys so you can, do everything the right way and you're not
Mm-hmm.
tempted to do anything wrong. And I said, cool. So we met, and the rest is history.
That is awesome. That, like, okay, so everything that you just said is a perfect example of what many women need to be doing if they want to be in a relationship. Like, one, we attract who we are. A lot of women don't like to hear that because they're like, well, I'm attracting all these bad guys, and they have all these titles for them. But if that's what you're accepting, and that's what subconsciously you're thinking of yourself, that's what you're attracting. We don't attract anything that we're not in harmony with. So
Right.
you taking a stance and saying, I am a wife, you put yourself on a certain standard, so you attracted a certain standard of man. And for you
Mhm.
to even be in a place where you have, that positive self-image and self-confidence, that when that man comes to you, you're not, you don't have your wall up so high that you're knocking him down, that he can't even climb that wall.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I think that's beautiful. And I guess how has that changed your perspective on men going forward? Because I know, we both believe in personal development. We both have our own spiritual journey, and that's obviously evolved how we look at life and people in general. So how has your relationship with hubby changed your perspective on, let's say, men in general or life?
So I will be honest. So my perception, he didn't really change my perception of men because I already knew good men, which is what made me be so stern about not settling, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
know good men, I know good fathers, I know good
Mm-hmm.
husbands.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what I also, and my stance has not changed at all, is that human beings are human beings. We are flawed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and anybody can, good people make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Good people make mistakes. And
Yes.
that goes for women or men. I think about when reading any holy scripture that there were prophets, God's elite, who
Mm-hmm.
fell short.
Mm-hmm.
And who just really good people they just fell short to the whispers of Shaitan, which is Satan. And we all get them, and it doesn't start off at once.
Mm-hmm.
It starts off as just an idea, and then just like the tree in the Garden of Eden,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't come and say eat it and everything's gonna be good. No, he placed an idea, and the best of people, if they aren't, if they aren't really guarding themselves, can fall. And I just always take that stand. So I don't put people in this place as if they are demigods.
Mm-hmm.
I am well aware that even the best of people could potentially make a mistake. And that could be me being a realist, or it could just be a layer of protection because I've been hurt.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, that is my stance on men and people in general, that the best of us can make a mistake. But what it does is it allows me to be in a space of a person who leads with grace.
Mm-hmm.
And ladies, that does not mean, God bless her, Brandy. We all saw that clip where her husband cheated like 50 some times in their marriage and like 300 and something times before
Oh,
that, right?
man.
And she's like on the show, I don't know, a reality TV show I don't watch, but I do tune into the Shade Room, so I get to see there. And I do know her from social media, being a follower. And so, when I saw the, Aliana Fix My Life clip, I was like, wowzers. So there's a difference between, maybe someone, like I hear different stories of people and I'm like, that's not really a deal breaker. Like sometimes, when we've been hurt, we are so exhausted
Mm-hmm.
emotionally from being hurt that the next guy we get with is like, you can't do anything wrong or you can go. I know my worth, and it's like, take it down
But
a notch.
that's not fair.
Take it
Yep,
down a
yep,
notch.
yep, yep, yep.
you
Uh,
know? And so what that does mean is that I allow for people to be human. I do my best not to
mhm.
retreat to that shell of protection that says, I don't have to deal with this, I don't have to tolerate that, and it's sometimes minor things, but we become so protective of
Yes,
ourselves
yes.
once we've been hurt that sometimes we can hold men in general to unrealistic standards. So,
Agreed.
but what I have learned from my husband is just he's brought out better qualities in me.
Mm-hmm.
He's allowed me to be the true organized person that I am, that I wanted to be in my mind. Um, he's like sometimes the mother I always wanted to be. Can I go on record and say that? He's just so bomb with the kids. Sometimes like, he's gonna show me up because I'm like ultra competitive. I'm like, he's showing me up over here. I gotta get it together. And so, he has showed me that, there is people in this world, especially as a single mother. We worry
Mm-hmm.
about that. Can anybody truly come into my life?
Yes,
And we know someone can love us, but can they truly love our kids? And as a woman, we want
yes,
to know, can they love them enough to really have a real relationship with them and guide them? And will my children
yes,
truly click with them and bond with them? And will this really, truly feel like a family, or will this feel like something pieced together and blended, which is not what we want? And so one thing that I've learned from him is that is available and that it does exist. Because I used to sometimes downplay it a little bit, like, because let me just go back to this. When you've been hurt, you sometimes dumb down to what you want because you're
mm-hmm.
scared to ask for anything because you don't want it. It's like, if I expect too much, then I may get hurt. But if I expect a little, then it's less likely that I'll be disappointed. And
Mm-hmm.
so you start to have thoughts as a single mother, like, well, if he just doesn't cheat, well, if
Mm-hmm.
he just, like if he just doesn't cheat, he comes home at night, like the bare minimum, and he shows up for family functions, he's a good guy. And it's like, no,
No.
you know what I'm saying? Like, that's called common decency. It's
Yes,
common decency. It's
yes,
okay to expect that your husband can fill in the gaps with your
yeah,
children as if they're his own.
yes.
If you're not that, and one thing I really take my hat off to my husband is that he just really is amazing with my children. Sometimes he'll know things before even I do at times.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and part of that is because I'm such a busy entrepreneur, but he takes that serious. He was a foster child. And so he just has a heart for children. And,
Mm-hmm.
like if he's not on the phone with me, then he might probably be on the phone with one of the kids,
Right.
and
Yeah.
he's just getting all the teenage tea, and I'll go to tell him something. He's like, oh, yeah, already knew, so he just takes that serious. And it just goes to show, just God's love for me, God's love for my kids, and that, something that's taught in Islam is that the woman who is divorced will be highly taken care of,
Mm.
highly taken care of. That if you are ever divorced, that Allah goes out of his way to provide for that woman and her children. And I'm
Wow.
just seeing his promises just transpire in my life.
Like I have goosebumps as you're talking because, like I said, we are like online besties. I feel like I know you. Like we hang out
Yes,
online.
yes, me too. It's like, girl, what's up? What's going on? We chit chat all the time.
But right now, like the goosebumps that I have is because our lives are so similar. And,
Mhm.
one of the reasons why I wanted to even do this podcast was because I learned after sharing my story in my book how similar as women we really are. And that a lot actually, we keep our stories to ourselves and think, things should be kept behind closed doors and what have you. But realizing that we are so much more alike than we realize. And I'm
Yes.
listening to you and I'm thinking, you know, one, um, my boyfriend is amazing with my children, and I never thought I would ever experience this because I've dated guys where they're only interested in me, and then they'd say hi and
Yeah.
bye to my kids. And this man, like you said, he gets the tea before I do. He's built individual relationships with each of my children, so he has his individual bond with them. So,
Yes.
he'll drive them to school, he will drive them to work, he will, do things for them that it I feel so blessed. So I'm listening
Yes.
to your story. I'm like, yes, girl, yes, yes. I
Yes,
love it.
I
I
have
love
one
it.
that's driving, and I can't tell you how many times my husband has gone to like repair a tire for her. She has the worst tire luck, and like middle of
Mhm.
the night, she instead of calling me, she calls his phone, and she knows that she can rely on
Mhm.
him, and it's like
Mhm.
that's the type of stuff that is like invaluable to me. That
Yes.
when the petty things in marriage come up, or the days where you're just like straight up exhausted from each other, like can we be real? Not every day in marriage is peachy.
Yeah.
And those days we just like, ugh, get me away from here, right? On those days when I get like that, and I'm sure he does too, I'm reminded of the time that it's 2 a.m. and he gets up for a child that he didn't create to pay
Yes.
for
Yeah.
and assist her and change her tire for absolutely nothing
Yeah.
at all, out of the sheer fact that he loves his family. And so it's those things that always keep me going.
Girl, I am holding back tears right now. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
Ooh, girl, get me all emotional. Okay, so can, can you share? Because you said that he's investing emotionally, financially, everything into children that are not by birth his. So, how many children do you have? Can you share?
Yes, I have 5.
Okay, and do you mind sharing their ages?
No, I don't mind. They're 19, 15, 14, 12, and 9. I have 4
Awesome,
girls and 1 son.
awesome, awesome. Um, so okay, so how do you feel being a mother has impacted how you do business?
It's everything. It's everything. It just is. They are the reasoning why I even decided to go hard in the beginning. And,
Mm-hmm.
some people, there are some mothers who just don't do great in business. They may have little certain business ventures that they do, and, they just don't take it seriously. Or you see certain mothers that are struggling. So just because you're a mom doesn't mean that you're going to go hard,
Mm-hmm.
but you, there has to be that certain something that's already in you.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a decision, honestly. I was a teen mom, and I've had to use welfare. As a young mom, it was just like that is what was taught to me.
Can,
It was just like, oh, you're having a baby, so you just turned 16, so go to social services. They're going to give
yeah.
you da 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 da.
I had that.
And it's just like, okay,
I had
I'm
my
young, I
eldest
don't
at
know.
17. Yep. Yep.
And I'm just like, okay, so they're going to give me free food, free baby milk, and free health insurance. Okay, and I don't know any better, so I just go into a system.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember that was 15, and I think great things happen in 10. Oh God, I think God is about to make me really like pull some things together as I'm talking to you. Like I'm not a planner. Like literally everything I do is really raw and authentic. So everything as I'm looking over happens great in 10. So at 15, I found out I was pregnant, and I had to start using government assistance,
Mm-hmm.
through my pregnancy and things like that. My
Mm-hmm.
parents couldn't afford to have a pregnant person on their stuff, not when the state can do it for free.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but then at 25, I found out I was having my 5th child, and that was 10 years. That's a 10-year gap.
Mm-hmm.
And it was at that point that I realized something's wrong. If I can be
Mm-hmm.
wide open, I was on my 5th child. I was on the 4th dad, who winded up being my first husband.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, something's wrong, but it's what I had saw. I have 2 other siblings. We all have different dads. None of us really have any relationship with any of them. It's what I was kind of groomed into
Yep. Our
thinking was
environment.
normal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I just
Yep.
didn't think anything was normal. But at 25, I said, oh, my God, I'm pregnant. I'm 25. This is baby number 5. And I
Mhm.
said, something's wrong. And like when I realized something was wrong, the first thing that usually happens when you realize that it's your choices. Now we can say, yeah, my environment, yeah, that was probably the root of it, right?
Yeah, right.
But then we hit 18 and then it's our choice,
That's right.
right? And I realized that from the time I was 18, I had been choosing. And I
Mhm.
hit rock bottom when I realized that the life that I was living, which was really hard, it was
Yep.
hard. Let me tell you, my friends who had less kids or no kids, they were out doing stuff that early 20 people do. And meanwhile, I was, scrounging around for a babysitter, selfish as hell, okay? Because rightfully so, I'm still a youngin', I
Yeah.
still was
Yep.
a kid. I never really grew up. And so selfish, just wanting to go out on the weekends, barely doing what was necessary for me to be a parent. And I just hit rock bottom because I felt like for a moment that I had ruined my whole life, because that's what
Mhm.
sometimes it feels like. And I
Mhm.
fell into a depression. I became suicidal.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I am a mother, and that's what I mean, what I said earlier about those whispers of Shaitan. When you're in, Satan doesn't strike you when you're strong, right? It's like
Mhm.
pointless.
Yep.
He just lurks around. He lurks around almost like a buzzard when he
Waiting
sees
for the right
something that's
moment.
dead or injured.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Waiting
then
for
he
that crack
strikes
to
out
seep
once he
in.
sees that you've fallen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so it was at that weak moment that I can start to hear those whispers of they'll be better off without you. And I remember just being at my lowest and just saying that there has to be something that's stronger than me right now. That's when I really started to look for God, because I did not grow up with God in our house.
Right.
And I remember saying that something has to be stronger than me, because right now I'm not it.
Right.
And I need to find what that is, because I'm not going to make it.
Mm.
Like I was not going to make it. I was scared of myself. And so I started searching, and I was at 25, and I was still on welfare, and I was making $30,000 a year with 5 kids. And fast forward, I'm 35, 10 years later. I make 6 figures. I still have no
You're
college degree.
married.
I dropped out of high school. I'm married. Somebody saw fit that this mess of a woman, because I was a mess,
Mm.
that
Mhm.
God just literally gripped up and said, my love is sufficient.
Mhm.
And it's been a 10-year journey of coming up from that spot where I was literally flat on my face, crying with a gun in my hand, ready to take my life.
Wow.
And that was me 10 years ago. And I look
And
now and I don't even recognize that woman who laid on the floor weeping. Her eyes were
amen.
to God.
Amen.
I don't even recognize her. And that is the beauty of God's love, is that he literally picks you up. He washes you up. And when he forgives you, he forgets it. And so do you.
Yes.
And you truly
Yes.
forgive yourself.
Yes. I always say God isn't looking for perfect people. He's looking for passionate people. And the
Mhm.
fact that, he's able to use you and turn your life around and make you an example for other women, to be able to inspire other women and empower other women to do great things in their relationship, in their family, in their, financial situations. It's it's stories like yours that will inspire other women to do better and come up out of the situations that they're in. It's not the
Mhm.
stories of the perfect woman who has never dealt with hardship. So
Mhm.
I think it's beautiful, that you've allowed God to use you and to be an instrument to inspire other people. So, that leads to my next question is, many people are afraid to be so transparent on the internet, especially dealing with,
Mhm.
the trolls and what have you.
Yeah.
But you, you post such positive and, motivational content. Like, what inspires you to share your personal moments online?
Um, so there are occasional trolls. I will say that there are some people in this world who are just not happy.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, they're just not happy for anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And they question anything that could be good because they can't see anything good at that point in their life.
Right.
Um, and, does it feel good when people say mean things? No, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I've been called worse by better people.
Mm.
So, honestly, for me, when you have a reason why, it makes it easier to push past the things that sting a little bit in life.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I share so openly is because I know that I'm helping someone when I post. And for me, that's bigger than my ego. It's bigger than my pride. It's bigger than perhaps the humiliation or the judgment that may be being passed on me as someone reads, because I know people chatter, and maybe say things like, sometimes it's just crazy. Some people will have something to say about you even being positive. I remember it got back to me. I had made a group for brand new Muslims on Facebook, right? And I thought, I am new to Islam, and I know that I desired a place where I could connect with people who understood what I was feeling, what I was going through, a place where, that women could not feel by themselves. And I remember just making it. It hadn't even been up a whole 2 weeks, girl, and the trolls were ready. And it got back to me that basically I was just like making that group so that I can like sign people to business with me. And it crushed me so that honestly I closed it and I went into a shell and I said, I don't want any of these women around me with their crazy, jealous and religious, judgmental, I just totally went into a shell and I was like, you guys go that way. Right? Because whoever it was in the group and they had taken screenshots and sent it to somebody else.
Yep. People like that and, distractions and discouragement, they all come to deter you from your purpose.
Yes.
And I hope that you make the decision to reopen that group for those that need the space.
Eventually I absolutely will. But I felt to myself, you know what? Let me get my feet down in this good. And then I will dip back around because, this is a time where I'm learning. And by all means, like, I'm not always the teacher, right? Like, I'm not the center of attention, but I know how to bring a crowd together.
Right.
And I thought, how great would it be for me to invite some actual real teachers, right?
Right.
And just I bring a crowd, that is a part of my gifting, even if I don't try, I do it. People always recognize me, even when I try to be quiet. And I thought, well, why don't I use that to just help some people who are really struggling? And I know that there is still a need for that because I get so many Muslim women who are either new to Islam or who have just been Muslim for a while, who struggle in certain areas, and they reach out to me. And so I know that is a need, and that is definitely something that I'm looking forward to putting together in the near future.
Good. I mean, I've always admired your relationship with God, and I've watched you share your spiritual walk online. So can you talk a little bit about, your evolution and what inspired you to become a believer in the Islamic faith?
Sure. So like I said, from the time, honestly, that I was young, I knew that there was something, as human beings, it's something we cannot put into words, but we know. We just know. And the reason that is because as human beings, like some people say, I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what my purpose is. What was I born to do? All of us were born to worship.
Yes.
That's it.
Yep.
That is your sole purpose in life, is to worship. And that's the reason why you always have a tugging on you especially when things go bad, you feel the desire, to run to something spiritual to renew and restore you, because innately we were designed by our Creator, and our genes are everything in our being. Just cannot ignore it, right? And so I remember being really young and having absolutely no connection at all. Like, there was literally zero discussion of God in our house. And so that's why I know it's been God who has been tugging on me all my life. And I remember being 12 years old and literally dreaming about the end of the world, like what it was going to look like Resurrection Day. And I dreamt the exact same dream twice, and it was like really deep and really scary for a 12-year-old who knew nothing about anything scripturally. And I literally dreamt the mark of the beast and insertion of chips.
Oh, wow.
And in the dream, both times, I was a child in my dream, obviously, as well. And I remember, like, you could barely breathe, and the only way, it was no other way to survive unless you accepted this. And they talk about that too. If you are spiritual, you know that there will become a time where you can't even survive if you have these certain devices, right?
Right. Right.
And in my dream, that's what happened. And literally, right there, as they were trying to insert this chip in me, I was like fighting, and I refused it, and I was taking my last breath, and I woke up. The exact same dream twice, and that was like in my mind, even to this day, was my confirmation that was God bringing me to Him. You know, God chooses who He wills.
Yep.
God chooses who He wills. We don't get to choose. You
Right.
know, God chooses who He wills. And so that just from that birth of that tugging for me from a young age, I knew that there was something bigger, even if nobody talked about it. And as I got older, it became more heavy and more heavy. And a lot of times the way God shows His presence is to make you so uncomfortable that you have to seek Him.
That's right. That's right.
You know, and I was He had brought me down to my knees, down to the point where I literally felt like I had nothing, no one, and nothing else to call to, because it's just like, that's the only way He knows us. That's the only way He can get my attention. And he did. And when He did, I just never stopped looking. And you know, I'm American, so the biggest religion here is Christianity. And so I said, well, okay, I'll go to church, you know. And so I got up and I just started going to church. But I'm a huge thinker. And so just going someplace, I challenge everything I do.
Right.
I question everything I do. Why?
Yes.
That's the reason why I'm able to evolve, because I challenge myself.
Yes.
Right? And I said, why am I going to church? I get up, it feels good, right? But what am I doing?
Right.
Right? And I started to question, and I started to read. And as I read through the Bible, many of the things that we were doing in church, it had nothing to do with what was in the Bible.
With the Word, yep.
And so I began to dig, and and it's not like I'm one of those people just like, oh, I'm just going to do this and do that. Like, I'm very intentional. And so I took a Bible class, and I read through the Bible, and certain things just didn't quite line up. And so I started to do more of a search, and really question, like, who's the author of the Bible? What is the Bible? Like questions people legit don't ask themselves.
Yep.
And as I did, I learned a lot of stuff about history. And so I began to search more and what was alignment with Abraham, right? And what was in alignment with Adam. And that one thing that was echoed across every other person leading up to where things kind of got a little sticky was, there is only one God. And that message was consistent in Islam.
Right.
And so I made a really tough and scary decision to convert. And so many people don't know that Muslims do believe in Jesus Christ. We do believe that He's going to come back. We do believe that He's going to be the only person who can kill the Antichrist. Like, we do believe that He is in heaven, like with God. We just don't believe that God has any associations, partners, or children.
Right.
Right.
Right. Right.
And we definitely don't believe that someone who was born into this world is a God. That's blasphemy to us.
Right.
And so would be to any other messaging that has gone, even in the Bible. So I made the tough decision. It was a little rocky in the beginning, because some people was like, what? Especially some of the people who were close to me. However, as I've continued, and I think with anything that you're doing that is positive, like, we're not terrorists, we're not extremists, that's not Islam. When people take the stereotypes and the thing, that's like white people, right? Before they really got the chance to know a Black person, they probably would believe that whatever horrible things that other white people said about Black people.
Right. Or what they've seen on TV as the stereotype.
Absolutely. And so what's been publicized to us. And so seeing with my friends, as they got to see, like, Kim is still Kim, she's super disciplined now, and this is having a positive reaction, a positive effect on her, they started to come around and just ask questions, and, not in a way of, hey, I'm trying to make you believe what I believe, but just understanding what it is that I believe,
Right.
why I believe, and, and just respecting it, and respecting the minor differences that we have in views. And so, yeah, so that's been my journey.
I think that's extremely important. Um, I mean, it was probably about 15 or so years ago. Um,
Hmm.
I actually considered converting as well.
Okay.
I don't talk about it often, but my ex-husband was Muslim,
Okay.
and I'm a Christian, so I would go to church. And when we got married, part of the deal was that I would consider it,
Right.
and I did. And at the time, I'll be honest with you, I don't think I did the full research, and I don't think at the time I even knew who I was as a person to even
Yeah.
make
To
that
make that type of
decision.
decision.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
I get it. I
Yeah.
get it.
Girl, I feel like we could like talk all day. My original intention is for the show to be 45 minutes, but we are already over 50 minutes in. But I just want to make sure that I get two more questions in.
Okay.
Because I believe it's very important, because you talk about how you were able to change your financial situation. And I want to know, um, how you share your financial or your journey, of financial freedom, and how you use that to empower other women.
So one of the things that I'm really big on is truly showing a real process. So many times online, you see like it'll be this post, and we all know them. It's like this big old house, and this person will share absolutely nothing. And it's like, boom, big house, right? And then it's like,
Hmm.
then they list all the things they used to go through, right?
Right.
But rarely do you see someone who is courageous enough to tell you, hey, my credit's really, really bad right now, but I'm
Hmm.
in the process of fixing it. I'll let you guys know in 60 days what the score is.
Right.
People always want to tell you the victory story, but
Right.
they never want to show the vulnerability when they're actually vulnerable. Of
Hmm.
course, it's easy for you to share now. You got it all together, and you say, oh, yeah, I've been there. I've done that. But, but how strong, you know, do you have to be to share, hey, I'm not balling out of control, but I'm on my journey, and one day you guys are going to see this. And
Right.
I want you to watch me piece together and get a real inside look of what that looks like and what it takes and what's required. Like, I literally update people on like what I'm doing to run a household, the smallest, simplest of details. And the reason why I do that is because it is the details that get you to success.
That's
There's
right.
not one major thing that you're going to do. It's going to be the day in and day out
Hmm.
minor sacrifices that you make consistently.
Yes.
And so I show them that. I show them also being practical. That if you are into spending all of your money on expensive things, awesome, great, right?
Hmm.
However, I show people that to really dig deeper, because I do challenge and I do question, but why? Why?
Hmm. Hmm.
You know, if you don't have any money in your savings account, if you got fired tomorrow, or your business went down the drain tomorrow, then what? Would
Right.
that, purse or those shoes or that any of that stuff make an impact in saving you and your family? No.
That's right.
So what I like to teach people is real practical building. Forget all the glitz, the glam, and the fluff.
Hmm.
Let's talk real life. Let's talk about all the daily heroes that live in a regular home.
Hmm.
That's not all pumped up, but they work their butts off. And all of their stuff is paid on time. Not everybody is this ultra super entrepreneur who's like living this lavish baller alert type life.
Yep. Yep.
There are everyday real superhero moms that work a good job, right?
Hmm.
And are taking care of their family, and they're cooking, and they're helping with science projects. And, maybe they hit a couple setbacks, and then they look and they see somebody like me, and they're like, I've been so afraid to even touch this area of my life, but if she can, I will too.
That's right.
I'm going to peel back this layer. I'm going to open this closet, and I'm going to clean it out, theoretically speaking.
Yeah.
And so I like to show, because the masses are not these, glamorous, made over lives. It's your everyday people that I want to touch.
Yes.
That's the people who I want to impact, because I know those are the people who are going to be doing the work to impact other people on a smaller scale. You put together an army. You don't go get 3 people to go do what you do. You go to the regular, average, everyday people, and you impact their lives, and they will show other people too.
That's right. I love it. That's beautiful. So I like to end the show with something I call walk in wisdom. And based on time, we'll probably only be able to get one of them in. So I'm going to ask you to name one of the most worthwhile investments you've ever made. It could be, time, energy, money. But name one of the most worthwhile investments you've ever made.
The most worthwhile investment I've ever made is in my own self.
Beautiful.
And the reason why I say that is because, and I'll give you a visual, right? You are the teacup, and everything that everyone else gets from you should be coming from out of the saucer, right? And I heard someone say that, and I thought, oh, God, so what if your cup is empty?
Right. You can't pour from an empty cup.
No, you cannot. And so the best investment, the most wise investment that I've ever made is in myself, because I know out of me, if I pour into me, that I can then pour into others.
That's
and
right.
So I always make sure that I have money to invest in me, whether that's in education, whether that's in spiritual growth, whether that's just in self-care.
Yes.
I make sure that I always invest time into myself, love into myself, finances in myself, to make sure that I am the person who I need to be. Everything starts with self.
Very much so.
And if you aren't pouring into your own self first and taking care of you first, it's not going to be but so valuable that you're going to be able to be to other people to serve.
Girl, you are filled with so much wisdom. 1 hour is definitely not enough time. So we definitely need to record another show, because I feel like I have so many other questions I need to ask you, because right now you were just speaking my life. So I want to thank you for taking the time to join us. I appreciate you. My hope is to urge you to walk in a manner worthy of your calling. And until next time, download the A Walk in My Stilettos app and subscribe to our newsletter at awalkinmystilettos.com. Thank you so much, Kim. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.